This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
Welcome to The Secret Life of Cookies, where we try to solve the world's problems through the miracle of carbohydrates, one recipe at a time. With host Marissa Rothkopf and her dog, Bosco.
My guest today is Merrill Markoe, one of the funniest writers, whether it's as a trailblazing writer for The Letterman Show or author and even illustrator, as in her latest book, of many novels and books of nonfiction. We attempt to understand many of life's biggest quandaries on today's episode, including why in middle school we always fell for the kid least likely to love us back, and whether that thing your dog is doing to the couch is considered unconditional love. She brings us her sugar-free breakfast cookie recipe, and I gotta tell you, it's a beaut of an episode. And also, on the subject of dogs, I want to kick off with a quotation that I wasn't able to talk to her about in the podcast, but it really sums up dogs for me so perfectly. And it clarifies just why your dog walks take so long. Quote, and this is from a dog in her novel who explains this to her in his dog voice. There is regular peeing and auxiliary competitive peeing. It's for acquiring an empire. I'm all about real estate. Unquote. And with that, on with the podcast. I want to welcome Merrill Markoe to The Secret Life of Cookies today, and she joins us from Zoomland. And I am very grateful to have you here today. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
For those of you who know Merrill Markoe and who don't know Merrill Markoe, you are a well-known, as they say in the trade, comedy writer who's also written many fantastic books and are just a general deep thinker and lover of dogs. Is that how you would describe yourself?
I'll take that. That's all right.
Do you ever have that moment, like if you're like filling out the customs form and they're like, what is your occupation?
I put writer.
Writer. And do they ever ask you, so what do you write? They sometimes ask me that.
They always do. And then the worst question there, that's bad enough because there's no answer that is going to please anybody. Mm-hmm. But the worst of it is, have you written anything that I would have heard of? And to which I say, no.
But that's not actually true, is it?
It is actually true.
I disagree with you. But you are here because you have just, I want you here, one, because you bring with you to The Secret Life of Cookies a sugar-free breakfast cookie. And I also want to talk to you about your most recent book, We Saw Scenery, which is brilliant. So why a sugar-free breakfast cookie? I'll say that as a person who bakes cookies and sends recipes out into the universe, I regularly get requests for such a thing.
Well, I cookies are one of the things I gave up. I've been on a diet more or less since I was about 8.
Oh.
So once you get going with that, I couldn't really stop. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. I went to UC Berkeley. Where you weren't even really allowed to eat most foods. And I was there at the advent, the early days of granola, where everybody was making their own granola and stuff. I've been steeped in this stuff forever, and it's a habit that I don't give up because I'm on the internet now, and every single day I see a page that says 12 superfoods you should eat. So I have to look at all 12, and then I find out that I'm eating all 12. And they've made absolutely no difference that I can see. But I'm so busy eating superfoods that I gave up sugar. I'm a vegan.
So
although I did put egg whites into this in this recipe for your sake and for the sake of people who I serve these cookies to.
It's very kind of you. And it does help to bind these cookies together. So that's a
Yes.
good thing. But I suppose we could also go the whole vegan route and use like aquafaba, that like chickpea.
Yeah, no, you totally can, and you actually can do it without. The weird thing about this recipe, which I self-invented, but I read a lot of recipes before I self-invented it, is it doesn't actually require the egg whites. You can just moisten it with stuff like like water, or I always have silk here, which is soy milk kind of substitute, or oat milk, or almond milk. I use that sometimes, or non-dairy coffee creamer. Almost anything works as long as you can just wet it. It sticks together.
So, so the directions for this really involve make it so that it sticks together. Really, like,
Yes.
there are no fancy directions here. And that's actually why I love this recipe. First of all, it's packed full of nutritious things: oats, almond flour, dried fruits of some sort. I only had cranberries, and I figured Merrill would say, sure, if you got them.
Yeah, no, I had raisins. I mean, I vary it based on what I have. What I don't vary is the almond flour, which I always have, and the and then I usually have oat stuff here too. So I mix those two, and then I just put other stuff in it. I've played around with this for years. I've only recently stumbled onto how great apple makes it. But bananas make it really good too.
I made my first batch with apples.
This weird recipe of mine, I invented it because since I don't eat cookies, and all I really want in life is to eat cookies. That's pretty much all I really do want. But then I just don't. I do buy chocolate chips sometimes, and I pretend they're cookies. And
That's right.
I buy chocolate chips that don't have sugar in them, which is a thing you can get at Sprouts, which is a market out here. I don't know if they have that market back there.
I have them in my house because I have a 15-year-old son who wants to get cut in buff. And he is true. Like, we have monk fruit sweetener, and we have stevia sweetened chocolate chips, because for all his talk of wanting
Stevia and monk fruit, both difficult.
Are to cook with. I think they're difficult.
No, to taste.
Yes, I think I find them
flavor-wise.
I also find them, and not to sound like a 300-year-old Jewish woman, but I find them a little upsetting in my stomach.
Yeah, no, they're that's why I use erythritol. I don't taste anything from erythritol.
But you get a taste. A lot of people claim the opposite. So I try and use sweetener, to be honest. I made the first batch with monk fruit sweetener, and I find that they're really delicious. This batch I'm making with actual sugar, so that my daughter has a batch of cookies that she'll eat. But I'm using coconut palm sugar, which I think, people pretend is much healthier than anything else, which of course it isn't.
People do a lot of pretending in this area.
So it's a religion for people. I think it's,
yeah, no, it is.
It's like John Winthrop, if he hadn't had Christianity, he would have been like, let me tell you about the pomegranate. It is the true savior of all of America, I suspect. Anyway, I'm mixing all this together.
I have so many food supplements that I take that I don't have any room on my counter to cook. I have just jars and jars and jars and jars of, and one of these and two of these and one of these.
Right. So yeah, we've gotten to the point where Soylent is your people. I have been enjoying We Saw Scenery, and it's a graphic novel. And why did you choose to write a graphic novel? Why was that your choice?
It was my choice because I had finished an audio book that I had written on the history of women being treated like shit. Are we allowed to say shit on here?
Yeah, you can say it as many times as you'd like.
And then I was sort of looking for, well, what am I going to write now? And I was going through my office. I save everything that I think is funny because I really am incapable of throwing out things that I think are funny. I think I'm going to need them or want to see them again. And I have boxes and boxes and boxes of things like, and they are all categories, and they're nothing that, and none of them that should be saved, and yet I have them all. And so at the bottom of one of these boxes, I found these little diaries that I started keeping diaries. I kept them all the way through till recently. I still have intermittent, but not consistent diaries right now. But my first diary, my mother bought me when I was about, I think it was the tail end of fourth grade. And I didn't know what you were supposed to do with them, but I wanted to honor the fact that she had bothered to give me a diary. So I wrote down every single thing I did every single day. And I opened these diaries thinking, well, this would be funny. I'm going to write a review of them like they are an early work by a writer. And I thought I remembered what was in them, but when I sat to read them and realized how complete and full of stuff that I didn't remember they really started to make me laugh, because who keeps a diary like that? I mean, maybe somebody with really bad OCD, but these were just every test and it was really a flood of stuff coming back. Like, oh, like if you had said to me, "What'd you do in fifth grade?" I would have said, "That was Girl Scouts, I think." I wouldn't have, I'd had maybe two memories. I think I got glasses in fifth grade, or was that fourth grade?
Right.
I wouldn't have really been able to tell you, but now I had in front of me every single thing I did in fifth grade, every single thing I did in sixth grade. So I thought, well, that's funny. I'm gonna try to do a comic strip out of it, like as if somebody's writing to you from the '60s, a kid writing to you, and it'll be a comic strip. And so I started drawing them, and also I was curious, like what this kid who was me actually looked like doing this stuff, because I only remembered some of it. And then I started wondering as I was doing the drawings, well, what's the selection process? Why don't I remember all of it? Why do I remember any of it if I don't remember all of it? And then I just started playing with all of that stuff and doing drawings. And I showed some to my friends, and my friends said, well, that's a book. And I went, how is it a book? It's just a bunch of random stuff by a kid. Figure out how to make it into a book. I had a lot of juggling and figuring to do to make story arcs, because I don't know about you, but I didn't really know what the story arc of my life was.
I didn't get it really, at birth. No,
I didn't really think of it as having an arc. It's just a long stream of stuff. But then I had to create one in order to make it a thing that you'd read. And then as I was creating it, now that I've created it, I'm thinking that is what it is. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I just took my life and made it into story, but I'm not, so that's how it happened.
To the outside observer, I do see it. I do see the story arc in it. And so that's why it becomes very interesting to someone like me and anybody who reads the book, because you get to this point, you're like, and that's how she got to be who she is,
Well, that's what you start looking for. And then I wondered, because, memory is such a weird, fleeting, weird thing. And so apparently from the stuff I read, unreliable. I started to wonder because as I read what every single thing I did in fifth grade, I started envisioning them. And then now they are imprinted on me as memories. And I don't know that they are real, it's weird. I mean, I know that I didn't go with other stuff that I could have put in this book, because I only wanted to make sure it was factual, and the only stuff I knew for sure happened was the stuff I actually wrote down at the time. So this other stuff that came to me around it, I left out. I left out all the general memories and only went with documented details.
And you have one of the guides in there is yourself, the older you, and the other is your hippocampus.
Yeah, which I was doing research on where do we store memories, and what stuff gets saved, what doesn't, and they don't have exacting answers to this stuff. They have just sort of theoreticals. So it was at that point that it occurred to me that the word hippocampus is a hippo on a campus.
Right,
And I
exactly.
thought, well, everybody must have made this joke already, but it turns out nobody bothered.
Nobody had. And you have this very sort of wise hippo who sort of helps you through middle school, it seems to me, through most of it. As someone who professes to teach, someone who talks about writing a lot to students, that like as I do, and trying to tell them, adjectives are the words, they help you describe things. You have to describe something with words. You must gather much material and then you can describe them, and blah, blah, blah. The kind of delightful stuff that I churn out for people. It's one thing to describe someone with words, but it's another thing then to just be able to have the ability to then describe them with pictures. Like, does one win in the end? Do you start with the picture and then write the dialogue? Does it help your descriptions if you are able to do it also, if you're also able to draw the pictures?
They're sort of hand in hand to me. I mean, the thing I went on to do more of in life was not apparent to me when I was younger. I got a master's degree in art, and I was really just mostly visual, but I had a weird relationship to writing because my mother was my mother kind of meant to be a writer and didn't do it. She had, during World War II, she got jobs as a copywriter on Time Magazine, and she sort of wore this writer identity as a badge of her own, but didn't write, and was kind of pushing it onto me, but didn't really like it when I became a writer and was earning a living at it, because it kind of bugged her, I think, that I was really trying to encourage her to become the writer it seemed to me she wanted to be, but she was not introspective, and I never did figure out what happened there. Anyway, I had a real weird mixed feeling about writing. She used to take all my papers when I was in grade school and arrange them and rewrite them and do copy editor stuff on them, like new paragraph, spelling.
So you're saying I shouldn't do that to my children?
Is that what you do?
No, they won't let me. So that's.
I don't think it's a good idea. She made me, she taught me to write, but I was never sure that why I knew how to write. I just sort of had it in my mind that I could write if I wanted to, and I never took writing in college. I wanted to be either an actress or an artist, and I was doing both of those things. And then when I got a job teaching art for a year at post college, and I was at USC, and I started auditing classes in filmmaking, and I switched over, and I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll just write, and then I just did. She did in fact instill in me this confidence that I could write. She was very verbal, but she was very emotionally peculiar.
Yeah, I kind of get the sense that your parents were a little bit narcissistic from this book.
They were very narcissistic and hard to deal with.
Do you think that was sort of a generational thing? Like,
there's a lot of it in that generation, but then there's a lot of it in our generation. In every generation, it doesn't seem to be slacking off.
Funny thing, weird self-preservation sort of thing going on there. I talked to some people just to mention the person I haven't mentioned in a number of months, but the narcissistic president that we recently had.
He was such a case study, such an unbelievable case study. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I'm early to that party. Yeah. I went to a shrink when I was in the 80s and read every book there was at that point about narcissism, so I knew a lot, but I've never seen it really so fulfilled to the biggest extent as you could see it with Trump. That was unbelievable for me. Horrible.
Horrible. That was the problem, because it's like narcissism, like, it's okay. It's terrible enough when you suffer it personally, right? Dealing with narcissists up close, but when it's affecting all of us all the time.
Everybody I thought was a bad narcissist paled by comparison, really.
Right. He was the president of narcissism. In your book, you pick the scab, if you'll pardon the expression, that is middle school. And I, as a grown-up adult, which apparently I am, have spent a lot of my life picking the scab that is middle school, and I wonder why it's never healed. And I wonder, are there people out there who didn't suffer in middle school, and what are they like as adults now?
Well, I have noticed, I have a weird brain that catalogs, and it puts things in categories. Like, for instance, I've noticed, just because I saw repeat categories, that most of the women I know who write, and there's one notable exception, the woman who introduced me to you, Nell, does not fit into this category. Everyone else I know who writes humor for a living had a really fraught relationship with her mother.
That's interesting.
All. Pretty much 100%, and varying degrees of fraught, but mostly pretty terrible. I don't know exactly how that adds up. I have my theories. But as far as middle school goes, it seems to me that the people who did best in either middle school or high school, particularly, level off. They don't go on to do much else. There's certainly a large percentage of people who got most likely to succeed or most popular, etc., who just were the king and queen of that domain, and that's it.
That's what my mother very kindly said to me, actually, in high school at some point when I was suffering being a short, fat Jewish girl. Okay, I wasn't fat, but I certainly wasn't as thin as the girls in my town, if any of you are listening. Like Jewish kid in a town full of the waspiest of the wasps, right? In the heart of preppydom. And for me, like, I just remember thinking, I can never be like these people. And look at, like, they're the cheerleader and they're doing this and they're dating and they're doing all these things I'm not doing. And they're beautiful and blonde, and I'll stop. But my mother said to me, these are the best days of their lives, honey, don't worry. Which
well, that's not the problem. There is you're going, well, why aren't I having the best days of my
yours are coming,
not
honey.
A satisfying answer. And what I was surprised at in my diaries is exactly how much anguish I was in, and that was another reason that made me think that it would be a reasonable book to publish. Is I was thinking somewhere there are kids right now in that kind of anguish, not understanding that you cannot really spell your fate and your social life projected into infinity when you're 11. I had so many entries that were, everyone hates me, I'm never going to have a boyfriend, I'm always going to be alone, I know now that no one will ever love me. I just had so much, and it was so ridiculous that I'd go, well, what? How old was I right then? 12?
Right. And you think, like, these intense feelings that you have about some boy are, first of all, you've discovered love. And second of all, the love of your life turns out to be in your case, it was fantastic, a pimply faced sort of Nazi, an early love.
That blew me away, that I remembered that I was in love with that guy. And I even remembered, although I hadn't really stopped to analyze it, that he used to do the German salute when he saw me. It didn't occur to me until I reread this thing in the book that he was Jew baiting me. That never occurred to me. I just thought he was paying attention to me, and I thought, wow, he likes me, paying attention to me. Which isn't really, I don't think, what the Nazis have in mind when they're.
It wasn't a sign of, hey, cutie over there, come and see me. From my reading of things about the Holocaust, that really wasn't it.
No. It was not.
No.
But it stunned me. It didn't dawn on me that what I was looking at was Nazism. I just thought it was a kid being silly. And, to be fair to that guy, he was 9. Obviously he was seeing that stuff at home, but what 9-year-old knows what they're doing?
Not really.
Although the good news is that I have not heard from him again. I changed his last names to make sure that I would not be hearing from him again.
Yeah, I wondered if you'd done any deep Facebook dives on him to look for him.
No, they're in Florida too. So who knows where between 9 and now, who knows where time and space took this guy, or what he.
The Everglades. I mean,
Yeah, maybe he's a an oath keeper. Who knows?
you don't know.
And maybe not.
um, we meet your first dog, Corky.
We do.
And we do.
We don't meet much of him, though. I didn't really have that many entries about him, so I was staying with what the entries were.
But Corky, herself or himself? What is it, Corky? Sorry,
It was a he.
It was a he, Corky. Sorry. Corky has this delightful face, but and sort of is in the corner of the picture, sort of adding in his feelings with his lolling tongue. It seems to me. You then go on to have a lot of dogs in your life. How many dogs do you have now?
I only have 2 because they're not. They don't get along well with others, and I don't really want to bring anyone in to be tortured by them.
But some of the novels that you have written,
I usually had 4. I had a lot of groups of 4 before this.
Wow,
and that was fun.
And they all got.
That was a lot of fun as long as they got along, and they did. I had groups that got along.
Big dogs, little dogs,
mostly big
dogs. I prefer a big dog. I have a giant fluffy thing wandering around here somewhere. He usually likes to come.
Just a
mutt? He's just a mutt. He looks like like if you dyed a golden retriever black, or a small,
that's a breed, a Newfoundland. No, not a Newfoundland. It's a flat-coated retriever. This is what they call a black golden retriever.
He looks like that, except we got his DNA done, and he's like mostly boxer, which is just the strangest thing. Boxer and lab and husky. There was a lot going on in his past that we just don't know about.
That's how they invented flat-coated retrievers. They were golden retrievers that mated with something black, and then they started refining it. I had 2 of them. They're the greatest. Oh, they're very sweet.
He's so sweet. Just the nicest thing. That's Bosco. Yeah, Bosco, I'm talking about you. I tried to brush him earlier, so he disappeared. But in your books, I think the one that really stands out to me is in walking in circles before lying down, where the protagonist has these awful relationships, or not successful relationships with people, and then finds herself crying into the neck of her dog. And what happens?
I haven't read that book in so long. I never revisit my books. I don't know how you feel about this. I'm so worried that I'm going to see things I think should be rewritten.
Totally.
And I don't look at them again. I don't even know what's in there anymore. It's pretty long.
But what I loved about this book is that the dog suddenly, in a sense, comes to life and is like, honey, didn't you realize it that guy was cheating on you? I could smell it on his pants, couldn't you? So do you find that your dogs, do you believe in the whole idea of the unconditional love of a dog?
What, believe in it? How? You mean?
I mean, like, people, I guess, okay, let's talk about my issues. No, people say, oh, I love dogs because their love is unconditional. And I don't know if that's, personally, I don't know if that's true. I think my dog really, really loves me because I know how to feed him and I have thumbs.
Well, there's that. I think that animals, I spend as much time with animals as I can, and animals, including humans, are lists of behaviors turned into patterns. And if you're kind to something from the minute it's born and every single day you feed it, it's happy to see you. What I really don't believe in is the unconditional love of humans. I mean, I believe that all love between humans is conditional, completely conditional, or at least that has been my experience. I've never had unconditional love, not from a family member, not anyone. It's always conditional. Dogs, on the other hand, seem to really have a high resilience level. On the last hand, though, if you get a dog that's been damaged by trauma, the conditional level is different. They learn slowly to trust you, and then you have to keep earning the trust. So I guess the answer is no, it's not really unconditional. I have had the dogs I've raised from puppies just let me know how lucky the world is that I never had children, because they they just talk about narcissism. I mean, they are so confident and sure that of their charm and their delight. They would just, the joke I used to do about one of my dogs is he would greet you at the door. I always said he had a greeting disorder because he would greet you at the door and greet you and greet you and greet you until you were really literally floating in a pool of his saliva. And then he was so happy to see you that he would go into the living room of my house, which is in view of the front door, and just have sex with the couch for the rest of the time you were there. That was how excited he was and happy that you came to my home. And I was thinking, what if this was well, the joke I used to do was, what if it was my husband and he came to the door and I would go, I just want to tell you, when you come to the door, my husband is going to jump on you and knock you over, and then he's going to run into the living room and masturbate. Don't be upset. It's just his way of saying hello. He's saying, welcome to my home. But the truth is, where I was going with this time was, if it had been a kid that I raised, I think I would have been raising Charlie Sheen, like
Right.
just a selfish, confident lunatic.
But now, I'm sorry, it made me crack up because I just have this image now. I can't go to anybody's house or have anybody in my house without wanting to say to them, I'm so sorry, but my husband is going to go do this to you, just for the sheer humor of it all. That is a beautifully graphic image. One of the things I thought about, Elsa, as I was reading your book, speaking of animals, is I just, this whole idea of adolescence, and maybe it's because I got adolescents in my house, but the feelings that you evoked in me of, or reminded me of, because my diaries, they were not that explicit. But I remembered all my crushes and how intense they were, and how really they were going nowhere fast. And does this, like, I know I don't have David Attenborough on, but pretend you are David Attenborough.
Who is my one hero, by the way.
Well, there, see, so you can channel
I just
him.
love David Attenborough. I think he might be the most perfect human who ever walked the face of the earth. If I start to hear Me Too shit about him or something, I'm going to kill myself.
Totally.
You better not be anybody getting ready to write a tell-all about David Attenborough. That's all
I don't want to hear. But he probably didn't spend that much time with humans to. Never mind. But is there an adolescence for animals? We need to find this out, because
wait a minute.
animals.
Absolutely. Well, have you ever raised anybody from a puppy?
Only my 2 children. I've raised animals from kittenhood, but my dog came as a 1-year-old.
No, they're very funny. As the teenage years for a dog are sort of, I would say 8 or 9 months, maybe 9 months to 2 years. And then, I think that's the teenage years, and they are just goofy. When they're puppies, they're way more clueless. When they're teenagers, they're partially clued in. They're less destructive. They're still pretty destructive, but willfully destructive, kind of more so. And but just goofy as hell. It's the boingy years. It's the years where they're swinging around, going boing, 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 boing.
But I wanted to conjure up this image of, I guess, dolphins are the most sentient of all of us. They're like us in the ocean. Do they make bad relationship choices?
What, dogs?
Right? Or is it only
they make nothing but
humans?
bad relationship choices.
The couch.
Well, they have no choice as far as the people who raise them, but I mean, they're willing to just get right into it with anyone. Every dog.
I guess it's true.
It seems, and lots of that doesn't work out. My dog Wally right now he got adopted from a rescue by me because he was so, and it didn't occur to me, but I look back on it now. He came up and just put his arms around me and went, I love you very much. And and so I went, all right, so you're coming home with me. And it was that fierce ability to manipulate that is his strong point. He bites every other dog. And he doesn't give them any warning. He just sort of sidles up to them and bites them. and then leaves. So he just wants them to know that he could bite them if they want. They better watch what they're doing around him, and that's what he does. It's he's all bad relationships except for with people, and he totally knows how to manipulate people. He's so good at that that he's the kind of dog that every person just goes, I think he really loves me. I think we have a really special.
Even though he's like giving you the Nazi salute, you're still like, God, I think it's something special.
I can't believe I didn't realize that there was Nazism involved in that. I guess we weren't talking about it much at home. I mean, I knew about World War II, but I didn't personalize it. I didn't think it had anything to do with me.
Why would you? Safe in Florida or wherever you were at the time.
And 9 years old.
And 9.
I guess we weren't laying it in. My parents been Holocaust survivors, I would have been hearing about it a lot more. But
possibly, I don't. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and I didn't hear. It was like, oh yeah, that happened. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, that's what my parents were like. They were moving on. So they managed to raise a daughter who didn't know she was being Jew baited.
I had people pitch pennies at me in the high school.
Wow, that's a weird one.
Yeah, because if you know how the Jews are with money.
Oh yeah,
they'll
they love
just grab it when they can.
They just love the pennies.
It's with the pennies, because you collect enough of them. And how is it running the Hollywood? Do you do it single-handedly or just with all the other Jews? Do you meet regularly or?
Oh no, well, I'm in charge of the laser.
Oh, that's you. They were great. Great job, by the way. Fantastic.
I'm kind of proud of my work.
You should be. And no one thought you were going to be a scientist, and look at you.
Yep.
That's impressive. Just this idea of being a woman and being treated like shit. I mean, it's not really, you didn't really give me much of a segue. I'm not like really doing it.
Are you talking about my audiobook? I wrote this audiobook with a partner called The Indignities of Being a Woman. And we were trying to figure out something to do. And then we started talking about how did it happen that 52% of the population became a minority? Now, how did that work again? And then I thought, well, all right, I'm not sure how that worked. And we started doing research. And I really didn't realize how bad it was for women through history, to the extent that I now realize, because we did a lot of research, read a lot of books, and it wasn't, I thought I was going to just encounter drudgery and kind of stifled dreams and kind of poor treatment personally. I didn't realize I was looking at abject slavery and torture. That's what it has been pretty much on every continent, in every religion, since we went to the city state from the primitive tribe. The primitive tribes, everybody was doing far better.
Because everybody, needed to pitch in or else.
Yeah, there was a lot of pitching in, and there was a lot more respect and functionality to the way women acted in the tribe. As soon as they got to the city state and the men decided they needed to form dynasties and therefore needed to trace lineage, and they decided to start tracing lineage through the father and not the mother, because tracing lineage through the mother is what they did in primitive tribes because it was so easy. I mean, how would you not know? When you're going to go trace the lineage through the father, who's the father? How can you be sure? And then you have to start holding the women captive. And that's what started happening as soon as the city-state grew, as the women became prisoners to that.
Well, luckily now we live in modern societies and none of that's a problem anymore, right?
Yeah, it's nice that it's all evolved away.
That's so fantastic. I was looking, as one does when one is preparing to do an interview, through various like reviews of your books and things like that. And one of them points out, thanks to Tina Fey, this is in a review of one of your books, thanks to Tina Fey, comedians, there's a new appreciation for comedians. And with all due respect to Tina Fey, I just kind of thought that, I kind of hoped that we were sort of beyond that sort of like women in this. I realize I'm naive.
It's amazing how we never get beyond anything. I mean, look at the nice revival we've all had into the world of race relations. I would have thought
Yeah.
we were beyond that, but
Right.
guess again.
Guess again. And and because I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm my age that I feel this way or whatever. And I talked to my students who are mostly like 19 and 20 years old. And I was like, what do you think of this statement? Thanks to Tina Fey. Do you think that female comedians are treated differently than male comedians? And 201, they all agreed. And it's a pretty,
They
I
agreed
don't know
what?
why
What did they agree?
that women do get treated differently. That
Yeah.
that people are one of my students said it kind of perfectly when she said people are much more judgmental of how they look and what they talk about.
Although it's so much better than it was when I was coming up and facing it down for the first time. And I didn't even then, because I had gone to UC Berkeley, I didn't realize how warped it was then. It was sort of a different version of me and the Nazi. I didn't realize what I was walking into with the male-female thing. And I also didn't realize that nightclubs where I was performing were owned by the mob. When you,
Oh yeah.
I thought, it's a fun thing with the fun people, and I really didn't know. I've had a lot of naivete spells.
Yeah, maybe it's better.
But Tina really did make a big breakthrough there. I mean, she and Amy Poehler together really kicked down some serious walls that were around.
Right. With their shows and just becoming their own producers.
Yeah, well, you know what? I also give some credit to Lorne Michaels. I mean, Lorne Michaels pushed those two forward. He allowed them. He was the giant 2,000-pound gorilla that could make those decisions and didn't used to make those decisions in the beginning days of Saturday Night Live. And then at some point had evolved enough that he was willing to make those decisions, and Tina and Amy were there. And great. Also great. I mean, maybe unstoppable. Right, but he had the platform for them.
That's great. And they had the power and the strength to go move forward with it.
Yeah.
What are you going to be working on next?
That's what I've been struggling to figure out. I just keep sort of stabbing at things, and I'm just sort of spinning my wheels, kind of seeing what I can make, if anything, I can make move forward. I
see. It's been a kind of difficult. I think COVID has sort of been. Have you found it challenging to work during COVID?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I turned my book in before COVID, because I could have just rewritten the whole thing and redrawn it during COVID. It would have been a perfect chance to tidy it up even further. But yeah,
I don't think it needs tidying up.
It shouldn't be any different, because for me, I'm a person who hides out a lot anyway. I don't have a big social life. I have some friends that I value, and I see them sometimes. And I do a lot of spending. I have a very big tolerance for spending time alone. So, but this pushed me way past that tolerance. This showed me what the edges of that tolerance were.
You didn't know there was an edge, and then you discovered it.
I thought it was sort of limitless, and I went, "Oh no, good, it has limits."
Unfortunately, this podcast also has limits, so I need to call this discussion. I need to, unfortunately, bring it to a close.
Did you make those cookies?
But I have made the batter,
and
I'm going to bake it off after we get off the phone.
Oh.
And I look forward to telling you, because this is the first batch I made had apple in it, and this batch is banana. And
banana
very,
really
very
makes
nice.
It solid, but you have to watch out for the timing on the cooking.
Yeah, that's what I noticed also when I cook with monk fruit sweetener, that if it's too high a heat, it can burn very easily.
Yeah, and bananas make it moist on the inside, so you have to bring the heat down enough to let it cook on the inside without burning on the outside. Exactly right.
So I may smoosh them, as we like to say, smoosh.
Or as Andy, who lives with me, says he likes it when he calls it hot banana pudding. If I If I bring it out too soon, it's too crunchy on the outside. It's wet on the inside. He likes it just fine anyway.
You picked the right guy then.
Yes.
Well chosen. So to come full circle, you have made a good decision after a few poor decisions in junior high. I guess that's why we have those moments to work through it.
I don't think you learn anything from those decisions in junior high. It's the later decisions you learn the stuff from. The decisions in junior high are just setting you up for more of those guys. You're going, I didn't get this guy, but I'm getting the next one. You're looking for that same terrible dynamic over and over again until you're, I'd say the age of reason is 35.
35.
Or at minimum.
At minimum, yeah, because there's way too much going on just
in chemistry. I mean, it took me years to figure out that just because you have a hot kiss with someone, it doesn't mean it's a relationship.
Right. Otherwise, I would have married a dog. Like, never mind. My dog is he licks a lot. Anyway, on that really uncomfortable note, please don't anybody read anything into that. Thank you very much for being here, Merrill.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me and Merrill Markoe for The Secret Life of Cookies. You can find my recipes on my website, marissarothkopf.com. And please follow me on Twitter at Marissa Rothkopf. And if you will be so kind, please leave a nice review in the Apple Store. It's what makes this podcast happen. Stay safe, eat cookies, and talk to you again next week.